Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Bloom, Group Publisher of Roofing Contractor, and welcome to our Best of Success podcast show. It's always an honor to have with us my good friend, Trent Cotney, partner with Adams and Reese. Trent, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, it's great being here.
Great to see you again, too, Trent. And we're always grateful for all your legal insights because we know there's nobody like you that has their finger on the pulse of what is happening in the construction industry, whether it's on the wall and ceiling side or especially roofing. But I'd like to talk to you about tariffs. It's kind of a hot topic today. Those went into action today from Trump's executive order on the 25%. But what does everybody need to know? How can you explain this or put this in context for all contractors listening?
Yeah, so tariffs are an interesting subject, right? Because the Trump administration is using them primarily for negotiation purposes, right? So originally, when he first threatened, Canadian and Mexican tariffs, it was because of border security and fentanyl. And the justification that we saw here recently was, again, fentanyl. Is that the true reason? I don't know. It could be, the basis to strike a better, North American trade deal between U.S., Canada, and Mexico than what currently exists. As it stands right now, it's 25% pretty much across the board. There's some carve-outs. Both Canada and Mexico, and another 10% on China. And there's been, some saber rattling on all sides saying that they're going to do the same. But how does this impact, construction? Well, from the Canadian standpoint, there's a lot of goods and, materials that are shipped across the border. A lot of, soft lumber,
Yeah,
uh,
that's big.
decking. There's a lot of stuff that is used, and we've become heavily, reliant on Canadian timber. So that is a big impact. On the Mexico side, the same way. There's a lot of manufacturers that have their base of operation in Mexico that we depend on for purposes of construction. And then same with China. One of the biggest things that we get from China, in addition to some fasteners and other things like that. There are solar panels and solar equipment, which is largely manufactured in China. So you can anticipate that there's going to be some increases as it relates to that. One of the things that I think should be on contractors' radar is that I don't anticipate that this is going to be a long-lasting effort, right? There's clearly an agenda. This administration has demonstrated that it is very tactical in nature, and that I think this is done to get everybody to the table to strike a new deal. I don't think it necessarily is in the economic best interest of any of the three North American countries to really move forward with tariffs on all sides, right? So I think ultimately everyone will come to the table, and a better deal will occur. In the meantime, contractors, regardless of what you're doing in construction, there's a handful of things that you really need, right? You need to make sure that you have your finger on the pulse with your distribution and manufacturers to understand what they are seeing from a price increase standpoint, right? And the next thing, Jill, is, you need to take a look at your contracts, your customer contracts, your subcontracts. You need to look and make sure, one, that you've got a price acceleration provision that, covers any kind of unanticipated increase in material cost. In addition, with immigration and labor rates out there, I anticipate those are going to rise. So you want to really put a pencil to your bids, your proposals, to make sure that you are estimating correctly, that you're taking into account the uncertainties. I've always believed that until I actually see it happen, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I think preparation is going to be key here.
Okay. Well, back to lumber, Trent. What about
Hmm.
steel? Because
Yeah.
especially on the walls and ceiling side, there's those two industries are, they definitely clash with what's better. But where did steel fall into the tariffs?
Yeah. So there was a 25% tariff put on steel that's made outside the U.S. It's primarily impacting structural. We do have steel making capability here in the U.S. I talked to, on the roll forming side for architectural sheet metal, most of that pricing seems stable. Could it potentially increase as a result? Absolutely. But I'm more concerned about structural steel. That I think
Okay.
is you're going to see an impact there
And why is that?
because we source a lot of that heavy steel outside the U.S.
Okay.
There's a lot of different areas, throughout Europe and beyond where we get that structural steel that's used to, create vertical construction, buildings, high rises, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
bridges. And although we do have, again, we have, U.S. steel and other steel sources here in the U.S., it's not 100%. So I do anticipate that steel is going to rise.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question, Trent, really is about labor. And, all of this kind of boils down to there's a lot going on in that scene as well. What is your insight and what do we need to share?
Yeah, the immigration is adversely affecting construction labor. So there's obviously some benefits to the strong immigration policy that Trump administration has. But in construction, we depend a lot on foreign labor. And regardless of whether they're W-2 or 1099, we've had, reports all over the U.S. of increased, either ICE raids or I-9 audits. And it's creating a little bit of a chilling effect among foreign labor. So you're seeing labor that might not here be legally leave the country or, move to Canada or seek employment elsewhere. And that in turn means that there's less people available to do the work that needs to be done. The industries that are primarily affected, are going to be the people that are listening right now. It's going to be building envelope, walls and ceilings, roofing, carpentry, that kind of stuff. The highly technical trades like electrical, mechanical, other things like that, you may not see as big of an impact.
Yeah,
But
hospitality is really affected too, aren't they? Hospitality,
absolutely,
the restaurant industry.
as is agriculture, right? So,
Okay.
what I'm telling everybody is you should anticipate, 25 to 35% increase in labor rates, and because you're going to have to pay more for the crews that are here, or you're going to have to get traditional subcontractors to do work. So, be prepared. I think that, anytime that you can have a time and materials or cost plus component in your contract to account for increased labor rates, you're probably wise to do so. I think fixed pricing, a lot of things in this kind of environment with there so much, instability, it's hard to adequately predict, what's going to look like 6 months from now.
Got it. Well, very good insight, Trent. What else is making your phone ring besides today? I know it's tariffs, but anything else we need to tell everybody about?
Yeah, I think in general, I think, contractors are optimistic. I think, backlog remains strong. There's plenty of work to do. But there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of noise out there and there's a lot of concern about, what does this mean? What should I be doing? How can I prepare? And I would just remind everybody that what is occurring now, we have never seen before within any kind of political landscape in the past, right? This is a new strategy. It is shock and awe. It is tactical in its approach. And I would not be as concerned about what you see on the news. I would focus on the basics, right? Focus on the fundamentals. Make sure that you're, bidding correctly, that you're collecting your AR, that you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing. But I don't want to make any, I don't want to rush to judgment until 6 months from now, where I can really see where is all this going. What do we really need to prepare for? And obviously, continue to tune into you, and we'll be make sure to update as we see stuff. So.
Well, thank you, Trent. We do always appreciate your insight and your time. You're so generous with your time for sure. But if anybody has any questions in the meantime, where do they go? How do they find out more?
Sure. They can email me at trent.cotney@arlaw.com or hit me up anywhere social at Trent Cotney.
Sounds great, Trent. Well, thanks again. And if anybody has any questions for us, it's roofingcontractor.com or wconline.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for all our free content, especially follow us on all our social media channels so you can stay up to date and all the great interviews we're doing, especially our legal insights with Trent. But most importantly, stay safe and healthy, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Trent.
Thank you.